Welcome back to Keep Going Podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host. Today we have a couple guests. This is Palm Stone Travel. I don't know who wants to kind of kick it off, kind of just tell what you guys are about and what you're doing.
So I'll say, we've been kind of like we graduated high school together. We've actually known each other since like middle school. And once we graduated, kind of right off the bat, we bought a van and for like $1,200 or something like that. It was an Econoline and just hit the road. Our buddy Marcus actually grew up in Colorado and he was also with us. So he's like, guys, you got to get out west, got to get out west. So got this van, went on a road trip. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we went to like 12 national parks in like 2 weeks where we were
Yeah,
just
we absolutely hauled. We were taking turns, someone driving, and we were just trying to get a big taste test of the West and everything that was out there. I know myself, and I think all of us, for us, that was our first time even being west out of Chicago. Like or west of Chicago. We're from Michigan, so it's typical for us to kind of just go to Florida every year on spring break. And so yeah, it wasn't really until after high school we did this kind of grand taste test road trip. And after that happened, we had such a fun time doing that. And, kind of right in the beginning of adulthood and this new life after high school, with how much fun that lifestyle was on the road, we were kind of all looked at each other and agreed how fun it was and said, hey, like, we're all going to be like, some of us are going to colleges, some of us were not, but we decided whatever we were doing, we're going to have to build our lifestyles around a way that we can continue to travel together. And so, we just made our Instagram page last year, but we've been traveling together when we can since we graduated in 2019. And it's really grown to something a lot more full time. And yeah, it's just been a long journey and it's been super fun. And now collectively, I think we're at about like 43 states and actually about like 43 national parks as well. And our goal is to get to 63. And it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's such a cool lifestyle, and it's so cool that you guys had the idea so young. Like, I mean, I feel like I grew up like I'm 28. I feel like I grew up like last year, if we're being honest. But it's really cool to see. And what was the fascination with the national parks?
I think kind of first just touching on, what you said about the youth, something that we kind of try to get across to everybody is just really harping on the best way to get started because, they see the final product or living in a nice van and have these jobs. But, that was never the goal, the intention. It was, hey, we got a little taste of freedom. Let's go do something with it. And like Scott said, it turned into something larger than we could have imagined. But the best way to start is really just getting together with some friends and saying, hey, let's go, create an experience. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you've got lifelong memories. You realize it's not for you and you move on. But we really had that luxury of trying something out for the first time and then saying, hey, we really like this a lot. Let's keep pursuing it. But I think as we continue to go on, the thing with the national parks, I'd say first and foremost, they do a very good job of, hitting the most diverse areas in the country, just kind of the highlights of each states and each regions. And there's usually a lot of parks kind of around those. And it also just kind of gave us a tangible something to follow. Obviously a lot of people pursue the 50 states as well, but there's not really as much of a path to follow if you're kind of pursuing something else. So I think those are kind of some of the big things that drew us to the parks.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that too. And, I think part of the appeal with the national parks for us is, when you think of national parks, I think a lot of people's first perception is, oh, like, family, hiking, this kind of heavy granola lifestyle. But for us, we were just like, hey, like, we're just hanging out, we're just having a great time in some of the most beautiful areas. And it's just like, it's super cool to be hanging out with your friends in some of these most wild places and seeing things that you've never seen before for the first time together. It's just that just the feeling associated with seeing new things for the first time and doing it with your friends and sharing in those memories and always being able to, down the road say, hey, remember this time when we did this and that. And it just always compiles and the memories and stories really age like fine wine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so you actually somebody actually asked how I found out about you guys, and my buddy that edits podcast sent you guys over. But it's also I'm in a stage of my life where like community is like everything. So just seeing this, I'm like, I'm like fucking jealous. I'm like, I wish I could have grabbed my friends from like I had a group of friends from like two to like I don't even know, maybe eighth grade that we were just like, sleepovers every weekend, just playing sports all the time. And I was like, wish we could have done this. This is awesome. But yeah, it's true, especially you get to experience it together. And that was actually one of the things I want to talk about was like, how has this differed from solo travel if you guys have done it? And yeah, what are like your key takeaways there?
Yeah, so I'll hop in on that one. So I just got back last week from a 2 month long, 11,000 mile solo travel road trip. In Florida, I bought a 2009 Toyota Tacoma and built a little bed in the back, had the cooler, had the clothes, everything kind of organized. And I drove it back up to Michigan and then shot over to the west. Um, I have done a lot of solo traveling myself. Um, it's very relaxing when you're just by yourself. You are at your own pace. You can kind of do what you want whenever you want, versus sometimes when you're with a big group, you kind of got to cater to everybody's wants and needs within the group. But my big takeaway with the solo traveling is at times it can get lonely when it's just you by yourself. It's great meeting new people along the way and people from different regions of the world and the country. But when you're by yourself, you can't really share experiences, with like your friends who aren't there. There's a disconnect there. And that's my favorite thing. And I think the others could attest to this with traveling as a group is just the memories you make. The so many laughs, so many jokes, so many experience, just the smallest experiences, the biggest experiences. Uh, the best thing is, when you get to do it all together, with the people you love, with the friends. There's definitely pros and cons to the solo and to the group. I personally like having a little bit of both, um, going on and off. But I look forward, after coming off 2 months by myself, I do look forward to the next road trip being with these guys.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
kind of just to piggyback off that too is, I think right now a lot of our page is road trip heavy just because of the season, that you came across our page and stuff. But we've actually a couple times as a group we've done what I guess we call it Airbnb long stays. So back a couple years ago in 2021, we actually rented a house in Utah, and it came out, and then we were like 30 minutes outside of Zion National Park, and it only costed like $500 a month per person. So like the ability to have a group of friends that are willing to go and live somewhere for only 1 month or 2 months, because that's usually when you get the discount is after like a month of booking the Airbnb. So we've been able to do some awesome experiences that way. Like we've lived in Utah for 2 months. There was one winter in Hawaii we did 4 months, and then this past winter we did about 3 months. And so that's just kind of the other side of the group travel too, is just the ability to kind of go in on these Airbnbs or even just splitting gas or hotels, whatever it may be. You're able to do things a lot more affordable as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's such a good point. Even hearing you say that, like you just rung a giant bell in my head of like, wow, like I could do this. Like do long stay Airbnbs for sure. But I think something too that's unique is you almost like bring home with you, especially when you have a community like this, right? Like you guys as a group have each other, and that's kind of like all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as much as the togetherness has been a part of it, one really cool thing is just the individual paths that each of us have taken and kind of looking back together and just different stages where, one of us was, we're living in different states, we're doing many different things for work, and just so many different paths. So yeah, two of us went to college, two did not. So I mean, there's plenty time where there's very different agendas, very different schedules. But at the end of the day, we kind of all always hung on to that big picture of, hey, this is going to be the final goal. We know we're going to make it happen as often as we can and continue to build at it until it's something that we can do for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time. But it really took years and years of, hey, we might not see each other for 3 months, 4 months, but continuing to have that kind of same mindset and same goals is just even more valuable than always being together.
Absolutely. And if you want to kind of go around and like what's been the best experience, it could be place, it could be just a memory from each of you. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll kick that off. And I think one thing for me is not necessarily specifically the place, but the activity, which would be a backpacking. That was something that none of us grew up doing, and all of us kind of picked up for the first time these last couple years. And it's kind of that same thing of, like you were talking earlier about, like the sleepovers when we were younger and stuff. It's like the same feeling of almost having like a sleepover with your friends, sneaking out and doing whatever you want, all night and whatever. It's kind of like the same vibes of that. You're just out in the back country, no one around, no one can tell you what you can and can't do. And it's just a really special feeling when you kind of get out there. And, we used to only just do like a 1 night trip, and then it kind of grew to doing like we've done like a couple nighters. I think the most we've done is just 2 nights, but obviously there's people that do whole week trails and everything. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, we've done it in Petrified Forest, we've done it in the Badlands, we've done it in Joshua Tree, we've done it on a couple of the Hawaiian Islands. We've done it in Yosemite. We've done it quite a bit now, and that activity is just absolutely one of the most freeing things you can do with your friends, especially.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny because even you touched on like I was never an outdoorsy person either. Now, like I ran through Grand Canyon back in June, and I run like crazy now. But I was never outdoorsy, and it kind of you touched on that you guys weren't either. And I think it's the freedom we're all chasing with that. It has nothing to do with like actually being outdoors and like surviving the wilderness, but it's just the idea of like being free, especially in the world we live in today, where it's just like societal pressure, societal norms, and you guys obviously detest that as well.
Right. And I can kind of piggyback off of that as well. Like you brought up like the freedom. I agree 100%. That's what everybody's chasing. A lot of people don't know how. And the concept is a lot of people think you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and then you get the freedom. The most free I ever felt was in that $1,200 van on the road trip. It's like you have to get to yourself to break it, to just go out there with some friends and actually just do it, because it's really not that far of a reach. People are always going to say, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have the time. But realistically, if you get through those mental blocks, you're gonna find out it's not as hard as you would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
If,
kind of
if
going,
you also want to, yeah, if you want to go to your memory as well.
yeah. So I brought up, Scott was talking about when we stayed in Utah in that Airbnb for the long stay. We were about 45 minutes from Zion. And one night, I think we just finished up watching like a football game. It was out there. It's a little later on, so we were like, why not just go to Zion? Like, it was like 11 o'clock at night. We're like, why not? So we get there, and as we're pulling in, we're like, why not hike Angel's Landing, which is one of the more difficult, more dangerous hikes in America. And we're doing it at nighttime, and it was the most blissful experience because normally Angel's Landing is packed full of people, where it takes hours. It's no fun. You can't move. We were the only ones there, got right up on top. And when we got there, you could see the silhouette of the valley with the mountains just black, super starry night. And not only with the stars, there was a meteor shower that night. So there we were, Angel's Landing in the middle of the night during a meteor shower, which is just something that I will remember forever.
Yeah, certainly it's the spontaneous moments like that that are just so special. Yeah, I can't agree more with that.
I think my favorite memory, I grew up here in Michigan, and it was always a couple trips a year to Florida. I had family in Florida. So I was very just accustomed to the East Coast. I had never been on the West Coast. I had never seen a mountain. Senior year of high school, there's a few of us who were friends with somebody who's from Colorado, and we kind of spent all our 4 years of high school just hearing about Colorado and the Rocky Mountains. So we planned a trip to go out there after all of our graduation parties. Um, just being in the East Coast, Michigan, the oceans, and seeing that first sights of the Front Range in Colorado, and then continuously driving through and seeing those mountains, and then driving a bit further and seeing the red rocks and the deserts of Utah, and going further and seeing Nevada and that desert, and then getting to the coast, the Pacific Ocean. It was whoa. We did it in a very short amount of time, and we saw a lot of things in a very short amount of time. So it was a big sensory overload, but I had no idea. I had no idea that the country was this diverse. There were places like this that exist. There are people that are different from the people who, are from Michigan, who are from the Midwest, who are from the East Coast. It was so valuable after high school, kind of just seeing America and getting a grasp of, what it's all about and how different people live and the different environments that they live in. If What I would recommend and highly suggest, if you're kind of in like that high school, kind of college age, and you haven't gone on a road trip, you haven't been out west, you haven't seen that many places, I just recommend you see as much as you can early on, because it really changed my perception of just kind of how life works and how life should be viewed, going into my college years, going into my 20s. Very valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think to round it up, I think for me, one experience that has always kind of stuck out was there was actually 7 of us in Joshua Tree National Park, and it was the 4 of us and then 3 other buddies that had all been, longtime friends as well. So it was kind of, for myself, the first time having a huge group like that in just somewhere that was so new and so fresh. And something that I've kind of always felt just about all new places in general is there's just such a sense of so free from everything that you were. And there's such a security that comes with the freedom that's out there, but also being with the people that have always been there for you. So when you get to experience those things with, north of 5, 6, 7 people that you've known for so long, but also have the entire world at your fingertips and everything you can imagine right in front of you, it's just a very special mix of, freedom and also reminiscing on just the wonderful times that you're having and, continue to have with friends. So I think that's something that sticks out for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we kind of touched on it briefly, but what is some like adversity you guys have felt from like family or parents, and how do you kind of combat that? And again, if you want to just go around with it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just pick back up. We'll do a snake draft type thing, right? But I think adversity shows in so many different ways. I think particularly when you're actually on the road, though, the great days are so great and you're outside and you're in these beautiful places. And then there's days where you wake up in a grocery store parking lot, freezing cold at 5 a.m. and thinking, how did my life turn into this? Like, I want to be in a bed. I want to, take a shower. It's like, what did I do to get here? So sometimes it does become difficult to kind of see through those things. But I also think on a bigger scale, you kind of get that societal pushback, and whether it be friends, parents, and even people that have your best interest in mind, which is usually the case, there still can be loads of pushback from the standpoint of, there's just a lot that you sacrifice and just missing things and just missing time that you would be spending with people, and obviously sacrificing, whether it be in-person work, whether it be, there's just so many things. So I do think it can kind of test relationships in a sense, but with that being said, it forces you to have real deep conversations with those people about what your goals and aspirations are. And ultimately, I think all of us would say those trying times with your relationships have actually probably ended up leading to stronger relationships that you build with those people, just sharing your goals and sharing your perspective with them.
Yeah. I mean, I to weirdly relate, I do like crazy shit, to be honest with you. Like I ran 100 miles in July.
Jesus, that
Took
is
like
crazy
24
shit.
hours.
You are not lying. That's
Where
crazy
where did they
shit.
do that race at?
They do them all over. I did that one in Jersey, but there's like big
Okay.
ones all over.
That's badass, man.
But it's the same principle, right? Where it's like you realize from training, from traveling, how important your time is. So now when you let someone else in, it's like you either have to add to it or you're not getting my time. And
Right.
it leads to really tough conversations. And I mean, I say that I'm 28 and dead single because of it, but listen, it is what it is. Like I don't want to give that up, just like you guys don't want to give traveling up. It's sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, so kind of what I was saying about after high school and going on the road trip and then going into college. Uh, I ended up dropping out of college after my first year, and definitely a lot of blowback from the family because I was kind of raised, go to high school, go to a college, get a degree, get a job, just kind of cookie cutter, bang, 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 bang. Um, After going out west though and seeing the mountains, seeing the Pacific, just seeing how big the world can be, even though it was in a small portion of the world, uh, I kind of looked at how I was progressing over my first year in college, and I just wasn't content. I wasn't happy with being in the same place, and I didn't see myself being happy in that place for 3 more years, and then presumably getting a job in that area. Um, so I decided after the first year to not return. And then that's kind of when the foot was on the gas, traveling wise, just trying to see as much as I can, as young as we are, just as young as I can. And there's definitely a lot of blowback from the family, from the parents to grandparents, like growing up, living a life of, it seems like everything is kind of laid out for you, your future is laid out for you, and then making a decision that just offers a lot of question marks and a lot of, like, what are you going to do, what are you doing here, what are you doing there. It's been better now after finding remote work that caters to the traveling lifestyle. But for the 3 years prior, I was just kind of doing odd and end jobs, just trying to pay for the next trip, and by doing that, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of pressure, sometimes a lot of stress. With strong desires to want to travel, it's not cheap. You got to make money, and you kind of have to, decide, um, are you going to get a job, in one location? Are you going to do odd and end jobs? Are you going to find a remote job? There's a lot of things that go into it, a lot of pressure. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, the traveling lifestyle, but through it all, have definitely learned and progressed as a human, for sure.
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, I think knowing what you don't want sometimes is more important than knowing what you do want because sometimes we just, like you said, we follow what's laid out for us and we don't actually think about what we want. So following that script, like I was a police officer and that's, I mean, as you guys I'm sure know, like you get pension, benefits, it's all laid out. After 3 years, I was like, fuck this. And my dad was a police officer and he was like, you're an idiot. And I was like, I'm not an idiot. And I made it work. The first job I went into, I doubled my salary from being a police officer in a year. It was a commission-based job. I was like, see, I'm not an idiot. But I mean, now I still switch what I want to end up doing for the long haul. Like, I'm not even joking, probably every 3 months, and I'm 28. So like you have nothing but time.
Yeah, I think some of the adversity that comes along with traveling, especially when you're just trying to get started, is kind of the amount of discomfort you have to put yourself in before you're able to have yourself in a position of what I would call sustainable, comfortable travel. Like, right now I got this big Ram Pro Master van that I can stand up in, that I converted with it's got a queen bed in it, fridge, all that good stuff. But not even the year before that, just a $1,500 van that a bunch of us crammed into, that had a million problems with it. I mean, I bought it for 1,500. We drove it all the way to the coast, and then ended up paying 1,700 in repairs. So totaled it just by driving it. But as well as like even just sleeping in a Honda Civic, when we were living in that time in Utah, I had the Civic there, and we would kind of do a lot of these like 4 or 5 day side trips because the location's so great over there. And I'd just be the seat laid down, legs be popped through the trunk, and it not comfortable at all, but you do what you got to do just to be out there if your desire is strong enough. And then I think you always just gotta keep a creative mind open, figuring out ways how to slowly improve your situation each time. So like the big thing for me was, I really wanted to push myself to graduate college as quick as I can, and get a job that I could, then get W-2 income and get a loan for a van. And so, I took summer classes every semester. I always overloaded my schedule. I did like 21 credits. So I ended up graduating in 2.5 years, and that was really difficult. I mean, that was easily the heaviest workload, and just stressful time with all the requirements that came with that. But I was able to, kind of shrink the timeline of getting myself to more comfortable and sustainable travel, because now I have, a job that I'm able to make money while I'm traveling, and also pay for something that makes it a lot more comfortable. But in order to do that, I really had to just stick the course of staying in, whatever I had at the situation, and being okay with that. And, really just trying to take small baby steps toward a better situation.
Absolutely.
Nice. I'd say that, like, Matt, you hit it spot on with like the family and relationships part of the travel. Now going out to Utah, when we were going out there, Scott brought up going out in the Civic. Me and him drove out there. I decided to go on this trip with $300 in my pocket, which is not smart whatsoever. It was just the fact that I knew I wanted change, and that was kind of the opportunity to hit the road, go to Utah, and just figure something out. I had no clue what I was going to do. I just was so confident, like extremely confident that I'll figure it out. I'm not just going to go there and become homeless. I'm going to figure it out. So get there, I had $300 in my pocket, and Scott's like, all right, the gas bill is 120. So we split the gas bill for the Civic to get all the way out there. It's just still really cheap on gas, but just like that was like half my money. And I'm just sitting there thinking there's probably a week where, struggled with food. Obviously, the boys are going to hook me up if I was ever in that situation where I really needed food, but just kind of really thinking and planning and trying to figure it out. And one of our friend Miles comes up and drops a paperclip. He was like, "Here, you ever hear the story? The guy traded a paperclip up to a house." I'm like, "Oh yeah, we learned about that in middle school or whatever." So I actually posted a paperclip on Facebook Marketplace, wrote my story out, just told him moved here from Michigan, little money in the pocket, just seeing what we can make happen, and ended up trading it up to a 1992 Trailblazer as a car. And along that way, we spray painted it, cut the roof off of it to make like a convertible, and just ripped it in the desert. It was an incredible experience. But where I'm getting to here is that uncertainty. Along that path, I ended up meeting a person who gave me a loan out on his minivan I got for $400 along that way. That minivan, I door dashed the entire time in Utah and made it happen. And most importantly, had enough gas to take the minivan home. And that minivan lasted me for over a year till I ended up breaking down in Nashville, but that was later down the road there. It was just a credible experience because I was so certain I would figure it out going out there for 2.5 months with just $300 in my pocket. And looking back, that was one of the most, challenging times in my life, but at the same time, it's one of the most blissful experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
It was it is something that I'd never take back and never change it. I wouldn't go out there with $400 because it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest things to see. I mean, it was like in a matter of a couple weeks, paperclip to a car. It was like punching bag to a dirt bike that didn't run to a car. Like there might have been a step in there between, but it was so bizarre. I don't know.
It's
Right.
wild.
It's crazy.
And
So
I'll never
cool.
forget too, the guy who originally traded, who I gave the paperclip to, he gave me a little punching bag thing, and he's like, "I'm gonna hold on to this paperclip." He was like, "I'm gonna put it in my office, and just when I look at it, it's gonna remind me of what's possible." So now, day to day, it might seem weird, but in challenging time, if I see a paperclip, I'm like, "Oh yeah, like pretty much anything's possible." But you got to believe in it. I believe that. Figure it out going to Utah, and it's just the paperclip. Every time I look at one, I'm like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question I ask everybody, and this is a perfect time to bring it up, is what keeps you going? And if you want to kind of kick it off right from there.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's little stuff like that. I know Dingman brought up. It's kind of like you take a big trip, going out to Hawaii, for example. You might think like the trip itself is the idea, but it's really like it's the little things that keep you going. And for example, it's those memories from the little stuff that you just laugh about, die about, good times. And then every time you come back, that's when it really sets in. You come back to Michigan, you're in your home bed for the night. It's like you're watching a movie of all the experiences you just had that you didn't really know that you had until you got back to yourself and just let it soak in. And when it soaks in, it's just a desire to get back out there and make it all happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say for me it's just these guys right here, man. Just constantly having the conversations about the traveling that we're gonna do, that we want to do. And it's like, I know if I were to just say, hey, I'm gonna hang it up and stop traveling, not only would they be like, what the heck, like get your ass out here, I'd probably then have some extreme FOMO watching these guys go all around. And so I think just having that kind of that community of just like the same like-minded goal, and that's definitely what keeps me going.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is seeing a new place for the first time. Just the joy that brings, the whatever it does to my brain, just in my feelings. Going to a new place, like going to Hawaii for the first time, seeing the red rocks in the desert for the first time. Even just the first trip, seeing those mountains for the first time, seeing what's possible, seeing, just getting a taste of what the rest of the world looks like, but also meeting new people. I think that's so valuable. And I think we're from a small hometown, here in Michigan, and it's very limited on the new people that you can meet, especially on a daily basis. But when you're constantly on the road, constantly going to new places, you're constantly seeing new faces, getting in having different interactions with different people, and learning about other people. You learn a lot about yourself in the process, and yeah, it's one of my favorite things about the whole thing. That's what keeps me going.
Totally great. That's awesome.
I will wrap it up quick. And Scott obviously already touched on, the community aspect, holding things together. And I'm a big believer that I could not do it even if I had the goals, I could not do it by myself. But with that being said, I think something that we all have kind of talked about as well is like, really what keeps me going a lot of the time is thinking of my 8-year-old self, my 80-year-old self. And it sounds cliche, but it's, if you can stick it out, you're going to have, some pretty good memories and some pretty good stories, and hopefully get to that 80 years old and be full of wisdom and full of, experiences, and be able to pass that along to, even more people. But I think really important to just know what you're doing for big picture. And I think all of us are examples of people that have grown tremendously as people through this means for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Honestly, guys, I really, really appreciate the time. And this was cool. I want to do this one again. I like having more than one person's awesome. And just hearing the story and hearing the camaraderie and what you guys have built and what you guys have learned about like yourselves and each other through the process is really, really cool and unique.
No, we appreciate it, man. And like I said, it's been an honor for you to have us on. So really appreciate that, and definitely look forward to doing something in the future as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. We definitely have no shortage of stories, and always happy to share.
Absolutely.
Definitely an abundance of stories. But thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you guys.